Hello and welcome to another Blender bite-sized video. In this one I'm going to show you how to create a natural leather procedural material in Blender 4. Here's the setup that I'm using. It's Blender 4.2, Windows 11, NVIDIA graphics card, Cycles render engine and a custom startup file that I've got a separate video for if you'd like to see how I created it. Just before I continue with the tutorial, let me remind you that you can grab this material and hundreds more on my Gumroad store, blenderbitesize.gumroad.com. Okay, so here we are in my scene. Basically, I'm not showing you how to assign fabric physics to this, it's just the material, so keep that in mind. I'll do a separate video for that in the future. I'm shifting over to the Shading tab, enabling Display Render Preview, selecting my object and assigning a new material. Then in the Principled shader, I'm changing the roughness to 0.35, index of refraction to 1.45, expanding the specular section, and also the sheen section. I'll be needing those in a bit. So the first job is to drag a connector out from the base color and assign a mix color node. Change that to mix. And then we'll press Shift A and search for an RGB input. Connect that up to the A slot. And then we'll change the value using hex code, now what is it, 5D3C25. And that gives us a sort of browny leather colour. It's currently being mixed with a grey, but we're going to drag a connector out from the RGB node and plug it into the tint of the specular. Then we're going to drag out a connector from the B section and apply a colour ramp. Then we'll go for colour mode of HSL, set it to counterclockwise, add an additional colour stop, and set the position of that middle one to 0.375 and the last colour stop to 0.55. And then we'll change the colours using the following hex values. For the first colour stop we'll use 4F3106. For the middle one 30201A. And then for the last one, black, so 000000. So we've got almost like a chocolatey colour now. But we're going to search for and apply a noise texture and connect that up to the colour ramp. We'll set the detail as 15. And I'll just zoom in a bit so we can get a clearer view of what's going on, because a lot of this is smaller detail. Now I'll just give myself a little bit more room before I move on to the next bit. And I'm going to connect up the noise texture to the factor of the mix color node. And we're going to switch out that connector to the colour ramp with a Voronoi texture. And from the vector coordinates or vector input on the Voronoi texture, I shall search for and apply another one, but this time connecting up in the position value. change the feature output to smooth F1. Change the smoothness value to 0.35, and you can see now on that object that there is now some quite detailed patterning. I'll connect up a mix color node into the vector input of the Voronoi texture, change that to mix, change the factor to 0.9, and then as an input for the A slot we're going to use a noise texture. And set the scale as 10 and detail as 15. And then we'll connect that up to a texture coordinate using the object output. And you can now see some detailing going on the monkey head there. I'll connect that texture coordinate as well to that very first noise texture that we assigned. So we're using the same values. And then I'll connect that object output from the texture coordinate into the B slot of the mix node. And you can see what's happened there. We've now got quite a lot of veining going on with that darker color as we pipe it through the color ramp. Now I'm going to get a math node and change that to power. And then I'll plug that into the scale of that Voronoi texture, in fact both of them. And set the base value as 14 or 16 maybe, and the exponent as 1.45, and you can see what that's done. It's kind of given us very detailed graining across the whole surface of the object. Excuse me. So if I select all those and press Shift P and then N to expand the bit on the side, I can actually label that as grain patterns, so I know exactly what those nodes are doing. Next up, I'm going to grab a color ramp. And use the distance output from that last Voronoi texture into the factor, and then I'll connect the color ramp to a bump node using the height input, and then connect that up to the normal of the principled shader. So we can see now we've got that veining has got some bump detail on it. I'm going to grab a mix color node, and then from the B slot I'll grab a noise texture using color output, change the scale to 2 and detail to 15, roughness to 1, and we can see that gives us some additional bump detail. I'm going to grab another math node and put it between the mix and the bump, change it to power so I can use the exponent to control the spread of that. So if I go for 14.3, you can see how that crunches it into the very fine areas of just those veins. And on that color ramp that's controlling it, I've switched the color values around. And on the strength of the bump node, I've put 0.3 and distance of 0.4. So you can see now it just presses those veins into the surface of the material as it would look like in real life. Now I'm going to connect that math node into the weight of the sheen. And then I'll select those, press Shift P and N and label it as bump detail. So that's what's giving us our texture or bump detail. And I'm just going to organize things so it's a bit neater. So we can see there, that's the grain pattern, that's the bump detail, and that's the colour. And then obviously that's all running through the principled shader with the additional settings in there to give us our final result. And I'll just apply a frame to those top 3 nodes as well and give the value, name them colour. And there you can see, you can change the overall colour there. It's obviously mixing with the browns of the leather, so it's almost like a dyed natural leather. So I think I'm pretty much done there. So these are the render settings that I had for my scene. Obviously feel free to pause the video if you need to take a note or catch up with anything. I've got the compositor using the GPU as well, and in the compositing node I've only got a despeckle. So no denoising going on here. So I'll just run this through. And it came in at just under 13 seconds for a single frame with all that detail. And of course you can assign it to a fabric material. I'll do a separate video on fabric physics in the future. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this, please remember to give it a thumbs up. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Please also remember to subscribe and leave your questions and comments in the usual places. Thanks for watching.